Hi, I'm Sage with Incredibly Mad. Today I wanted to share with you 5 tips for teaching English learners from the beginning. I've been a teacher for almost 20 years with language. I started with Spanish and then English, and I've learned a lot. And I just wanted to share with you some of the things that helped me along the way. It doesn't matter if you're new to teaching altogether or if you're just new to teaching English learners. These 5 tips will help you be successful in getting started with teaching English learners. Number 1, get to know your students. I know that sounds kind of obvious, and you probably heard that with any teaching class or professional development that you've been in if you've had it before. But it's really important here for several reasons. With English learners, it's really important to find out what level they're on, what's the student's motivation, and also what the student is capable of. When I talk about what level of beginner, beginners have a wide range. They can know nothing at all. They can learn, they know a little bit, maybe their numbers, their color, greetings, that kind of thing. Or they may have some basic common phrases that they've memorized, but if you actually try to get into a conversation with them, they don't understand. So it's really important to understand what level of beginner you're starting with. The second thing, the motivation for the student. Is this a student that's in school and that's struggling? Is this a student that you're teaching overseas and they're already in school and they're learning English as a second language and as a supplement to their other courses? Is this a student that is learning it on a person who's learning it on their own because it's an essential skill that they know they're going to have, and they've come to you so they can get to the next level? There's all different kinds of motivations, and knowing those will help you to guide how you're going to teach this student. The last part of getting to know your students is finding out what your student is capable of. Is your student a fast learner? Is your student learning other things at the same time? Like if they're in a school and they have other subjects that they have to deal with also, are they able to juggle learning the English and learning other subjects as well? And also, what else is going on at home? Is the student practicing at home? Is the student have the English language at home available, whether it's listening to the radio or watching TV? Tip number 2, know your goal. Teaching English is a broad term, or it can be considered a broad goal. There's a lot of things that are encompassed when talking about teaching English. So you have to have a specific goal in mind of what you're trying to accomplish. Yes, your job is to teach English, but you want to know specifically what part of English that you want to teach. If you're teaching in a school or a classroom setting, the first thing you might want to do is figure out what the school's expectation is of what they want you to teach. If you're teaching at home or if you're tutoring one-on-one, then you need to find out, maybe if it's a child, find out what the parents' expectations are of your teaching their child. Or if it's an adult, what is the student trying to learn? Why are they? That goes back to part of the motivation. Why are they there? When I signed up to teach English in China, I was so excited, and I had to figure out first, what is it that my school wanted me to teach the students? They gave me 2 sets of kids. They had the lower level, or lower grade level, 7th grade level type students, and then upper grade level students, like more closer to 11th and 12th juniors and seniors. The school really wanted me to do two different types of teaching. So with the younger students, they wanted me to supplement what was already being taught in the classroom. That requires a different type of curriculum and a different type of thinking when you're approaching what to teach your students. The older kids who were preparing for their university or college life, study abroad, that kind of thing. So they had different needs and different expectations. They were trying to prepare to go abroad, so they were more advanced students. So they weren't really beginners, but they were still on a different level than the 7th grade students. Tip number 3, start with words and phrases and even cognates if possible. And the best way to help them feel successful and confident from the beginning is by helping them be comfortable. They need to be comfortable with the sounds, with making the sounds, with pronunciation. And so repeating and parroting are very, very critical at the early stages when teaching beginners English. You want your students, if you're in a classroom, you want them to repeat everything that you say. You want them to, if you have them doing writing activities, you want them to say out loud everything that they're writing. Even if they don't understand, it's okay. It's just getting them to learn to hear the rhythm of the language, which is probably way different from their language. You want them to get used to how the language sounds in their ears. And by the way, cognates, if you aren't familiar with that term, are words that are particularly similar in two different languages. And what I mean by similar is similar in sound and in meaning. So for example, some key cognates in English and in Spanish would be excellent, excelente, or important, importante. Those types of words, again, help to build the confidence in the student and get used to the cadence of the language. Tip number 4, teach thematically or situationally, not by the chapter or by the unit in a book. As teachers in school, we are taught to teach by the book. We're taught usually to teach in units, in sections, in chapters. But the reality is students need to learn by subject or topic or theme. When things are grouped together in a topic or a theme or a subject matter, then things become more relative to the student and it sticks longer, especially for beginners. For example, when I taught Spanish, I was told that I had to teach in a certain order. I had to align my teaching with the other teachers in the other classes, and we all had to teach the same thing at the same time. We were supposed to teach greetings initially to the very first few weeks of school, and then we had to teach I believe it was school subject matter, the learning how to say backpack and desk and teacher, vocabulary for school. Then we learned, we had to teach the students how to use pronouns, and then we taught them how to use verbs and adjectives and things like that. Those were the steps that we were required to teach, but that's not how students learn. I found after a couple of years that my students did better when I taught by theme or by topic, by subject. So what I mean by that is if I wanted to teach school life or school subject matter, then I would teach not only the vocabulary that goes with with the school, I would teach everything that applied to a school setting all together. Now this last tip, number 5, is probably the biggest or my favorite, but it's also probably the most surprising. Whatever you do, don't teach grammar. Did she just say what I think she said? Yes, don't teach grammar. If you don't teach grammar, the students will still learn it. Think about when you were a child. Think about children, period. When they're little, learning to speak, learning to talk. Do we teach them grammar? Do we teach them how to use a verb? Do we teach them what a noun is? No. We just teach them. We teach them to speak. We teach them to talk. We teach them words. And everything else falls into place. That's the same thing will happen to any beginner that learns the language. Grammar is not for beginners. It's for students who are at the intermediate level or above. So if you're in a school setting, I would say wait until your English learner is at least at a high functioning beginning level on their way to an intermediate level before you start teaching the fundamentals of grammar, before you start teaching the mechanics of verbs and nouns and adjectives and pronouns and everything that goes along, present tense and everything that goes along with it. Wait. I can hear your protests already, but they have to learn grammar. Yes, they do, but not until later on. The trick is you teach your grammar lessons, you teach your grammar, your verbs and your nouns and your adjectives just like you would teach your regular vocabulary words. You would teach what all of those words mean. You would teach their meanings, but you don't get into the structure or the why of how the grammar works until later. Again, you're trying to build confidence and comfort with students that are at the beginning level. And the only way to do that is to not confuse them, which that's what grammar does when somebody's first learning a language. So just teach them as words, as vocabulary, as phrases. Have them mimic you, have them parrot you, have them copy what you're saying. And then later on, you can get into the why or the sentence structure or the how the grammar works. So just a quick recap. When you're teaching English to beginners, start with number 1, getting to know your students. Also, know your goals, what it is in English that you're trying to teach. Be very specific if possible. Then start with words and phrases, even cognates if possible, and tie it all together thematically or situationally if possible. And then last but not least, stay away from the grammar. Don't teach grammar to initial beginner students. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed these 5 tips on teaching English to beginners. Please like and subscribe so that you can stay tuned and be aware of when we have more incredibly mad content coming your way. Have a great day.